Alright, so here is the burning question. What the hell is George doing? No, that's not the burning question. The question is, what Supercharger kit are we on right now? I am trying to line myself up to be number 50 so I can get free stuff. So if you would tell me what number you're on, and even better, call me when number 50 is coming up, and I'll send you a check. I want to be number 50. It doesn't work like that, because we'd never sell another kit. Everybody wants to be number 50, which means everybody will call up and find out we're on kit number, and we would never sell another kit. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm not trying to be awkward, but you get our meaning. We're going to give you free stuff. You know number 50 is going to get something special. Hey, who knows what it gets? Might even get a new set of... Anyway, so that's what's going on with kit number 50. Who knows when it's going to be number 50. Alright, so this video is going to have a little bit of everything in it. S2000 work, custom downpipe on a Miata, some tuning, that kind of thing. Our last video was kind of boring, I know. We just did like a quickie thing from SEMA. I didn't want to make it too boring, but of course, after you've been to SEMA for a few times, everything kind of looks the same, and I don't want to film the same stuff everybody else is filming, and I don't know. It was just kind of like a fill, just because we was away for a week. One thing we did is talk to Swiss Tracks at SEMA, which they're famous for their flooring and their tiles. These have been down for a while now. We've tried to clean them. They're like a hard plastic. They're smooth. This is our main like area that you come in the shop. There's a door. If you come in from that door, you come in, you see our display cabinet. These are boxes of t-shirts. We've got to try and get this place cleaned up. We tend to just leave stuff. If it sits on the floor, we just leave it and forget it. I don't know why I keep filming my neck, by the way. So we talked to Swiss Tracks, and we are going to redo this whole floor and then probably more areas of the shop once we get the hang of it. Obviously move this, clean up, so look out for that. I'm going to do like an unboxing. I'm going to do it a little different to what most people do. Everyone's seen how to put tiles down, but I just want to show you why they're different to these. So I can do a direct comparison. I'll tell you exactly who makes these tiles, what makes the Swiss Tracks different, but they had probably 200,000 square feet of tiles at SEMA, and that's what sold me on their product, just because I saw it in everybody else's booth and how much traffic the tiles would see and how good they looked. So we're going to do something on that. So we just noticed in this is a nice little scoop here. It's basically going to channel air in down to the intake, which is here. The best part is it works. Look at the stuff it's collecting. Leaf, sand. It works. You can see where it's channeling the air. Alright, this is the lower end springs they've provided. Now we're going to take the strut off here and separate it, install the spring on the strut, and put the strut back in the car. Alright, pop the strut out. Now we need to take that apart. These guys. There we go. Springs installed. Let's go ahead, put it back on the car, do the other ones. Alright, so the back spring is installed. I didn't want to film next. It's not really the most exciting thing by dropping the suspension, pulling out a spring and installing a spring. So I'm going to put the wheels back on, put it on the ground, see how she looks. What do you think? Does it look good? Stripes are off now. Kind of regret volunteering to do those for free, because it actually took a long time. After you pull the stripe off, even after you remove the glue, it almost leaves like, it's like it etches the paint. So it might have had like hard water spots on it, and then as you remove that just use real light wax, kept going over and over it. It seems like we got it off. So it looks so much better. I don't like the stripes. It looks cleaner without the stripes.
That's
that
me.
Must be it.
Is that you or me?
That's not me.
That's me then.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh well, that's nice. Well, hey, fresh back from our Vegas vacation, SEMA networking, SEMA meeting, all that good stuff. This guy made it back.
Yep.
I'm here. First car on the lift, S2000. Imagine that. And we just noticed that the people that's worked on this car has had sign, and I guess we work on so many of these, we forget which ones we've worked on. Anyway, he's back for an no, what's he back for?
What?
he's back for an FX300 and a few maintenance items. He wants to do oil change, fluids, and what else did we notice? Shows what we got in the trunk.
Blue Powerade.
Look at that.
Matches our shirt, like we've said before.
This guy watches our videos, and you know, we always like free gifts. It's kind of like a little bit of, kind of like a TLC for LHT.
Powerade for everybody.
Nice. And they're soft, and also they're kind of shallow, which shallow means where the Allen wrench goes in there, it doesn't go in very deep, so that when you start to put force on it, the Allen wrench kind of walks out and just starts to wallow out the head. You see there, that one's actually in pretty good shape, where this one has wallowed out. So this is pretty common. We actually keep the bolts in stock. Let me show you these. So as you see how many of these we keep. I'll show you what these look like here. So these are the ones we use. I see they're a higher grade, they're 12.9. I see they're 12.9, and the socket is much deeper, which means when you put the Allen wrench in there, there's less chance of it walking out. But like I said, it's a much harder bolt. That way, if you got to take this thing apart again, you're not going to have the same kind of issue. And this is the exact size for the Honda. If it looks kind of sketchy, we replace these. These are kind of cheap. I think the whole set isn't, I don't know. But we're going to change those for you. There it is, the FX300. One thing I want to talk about is this is the bearing that we use. It's the Nietzsche bearing. This is a pull style bearing, which means there's constant load on this. Every time you put your foot down, you're actually pulling on this bearing. You see this flange here, there's a flange here and a flange here. This part is pulling on the pressure plate, this part is pulling on the fork, which is what pulls from the hydraulic slave cylinder. You can see what a good finish this has on it. It has like almost like a crosshatch, which helps these break in faster. This is the material on the disc, so this is actually helps it break into that surface. I've had people ask about clutch buzz. In fact, I've had a handful of people, hey, what about the clutch buzz? Does this clutch buzz? Does it make a noise? Well, first off, clutch buzz is usually these springs that are loose. I just feel, typically just get this and try and turn it. They're tight in here. You can see on this is the FX300, which is the stage 3. These two are double springs, these are single. But clutch buzz is basically this spring rattling in here. The spring is a cushion between this inner drive, which is what is attached to your transmission, and this outer plate here, which is sandwiched between the pressure plate and the flywheel. So if you was to clamp this surface and put a torque wrench on this, you could actually roll this back and forth and the springs take up the cushion. Typically clutch buzz, from what I've seen on Clutchmaster's clutches anyway, is from either dumping the clutch, dropping the clutch, speed shifting, which all you're doing is running this back and forth more aggressively, which either collapses these springs a little bit, or it actually starts to bend this metal here and makes those springs actually loosen that cradle. I don't see it very often, but when we've had customers ask about clutch buzz, and one customer actually asked for us to take it apart because he thought there was something damaged in there, and we basically got this disc and you could just turn these springs. It wasn't loose, but you could, you know, kind of do this, shake it and get a rattle out of it. It wasn't bad, but it was enough that it annoyed him. We ended up putting a disc in it. It never happened again, but afterwards he did tell us he used to drop the clutch quite a lot. You know, come out of a turn-in, come out of a driveway and dump the clutch and get the car to drift around, and I don't know. So as you see, these are tight. So that's the Clutchmaster's FX300, and this is typically what our kit looks like. We can ship you one of these kits. We can either install it for you if you would like to purchase this kit with the Nietzsche bearing just as you see it. Comes nicely packaged. We can ship this right to your door. There's a nice new clutch in there. These two lower bolts here, you can see on the lower transmission, this one and this one, they're open to the elements, which I think was a mistake on Honda's part. I think these should have been a blind hole. Well, anyway, the bolts that come out of there look like this, and they always come out hard. In some cases you gotta soak them with PB Blaster to get them to come out. So what we usually do is coat them in our lovely space grease. So do you guys work on Hondas?
No.
Okay, just checking. Is this gonna stay up?
I think so.
How much torque are you using on that?
About, I don't know, 2 pounds maybe.
2 pounds, okay, that sounds good enough. So what I have here is an S2000 intent manifold. This is for an upcoming build. It's going to be a supercharged build, so it's going to be a little higher horsepower than our regular one. So one thing I found is increasing the plenum volume and porting out the runners. There's some significant gains in here. So what I'm doing here, so as you see, I've cut this section of the plenum off so we can access the runners. Now the runners are actually pretty good size in the S2000, and they're pretty clean, but the entrance here, there's some room for improvement. I once ported one of these and played with a flow bench to see where the power and airflow was, and it was mainly in the entry. The runner diameter is actually pretty good, and it's a pretty short runner. So I'm going to go in here and open this up. Also, we're going to open up the flange diameter to access, the flange diameter to access a larger throttle body and port match it. So I'm going to go in here and run all this, get some nice entry shaping in there. Alright, just to give you kind of an idea, obviously the 3 runners you can see that I've already ported out. They're about probably 20% larger, and the entranceway here is much smoother. All we're doing is bringing this entrance a little further out, but this area here is larger, and ported the runners down. I got some more to do, but these are basically roughed out. So I'm going to work on that last port right now. So there's that manifold finished. You see the plenum. I wish I had the side by side, but basically measured this. It's about 30% larger plenum size. This is the throttle body that we had bored out. It's a factory OEM Honda one. It's bored out 3 millimeters, and it's the factory OEM drive-by-wire, so I don't have any issues with that. And the entranceways, it's hard to tell, but we opened them up quite a bit. I'm going to actually flow this in the next couple of days, but the runner lengths are actually really nice. They're smooth. All we do is kind of clean them up, and despite what everyone tells you, cleaning this up and polishing it does basically nothing. It just looks good. The customer feels good about it. It really does nothing. It isn't until you actually put it on a flow bench, flow it, go in there and sand it and polish it and make it look pretty, put it back on the flow bench, you realize it does nothing. But it looks pretty, and it's good for pictures, and it's good to show your friends, but it basically does nothing. It's the diameter and the actual entryway, which is what I talked about there. And you see how much larger that is in there. Of course the camera doesn't do a very good job, but anyway, put the fittings back on the way it needs to be, the brake booster fitting, and the air temp and map sensor flange right there. That throttle body is going to go on there, and that is going on an upcoming S2000. So look what I just bought. We like these cars so much, and I've never had a green one. I just had to have it. Well, from the last car we just built, which if you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link in the video. Friendly. The engine that is in here comes from a Honda Fit. This car weighs about 700 pounds less than a Honda Fit. We're guessing this should be around 45 mpg, normal day-to-day driving. But we just built a car that we called the L-Sight, which the L-Sight was this car with a Honda Fit motor. Well, we liked it so much, I decided to build one for myself and have it also be a demo car. So we are going to build this, but more economy minded. Going to make it a little taller gear ratio transmission, do a few little tricks to get some more miles per gallon out of it. But look at this color. This was nicknamed Spaceship Green. So this is going to be our demo car. So if you have a Honda Insight and you like the idea of our Fit motor, which we call an L-Sight, you'll be able to drive this one. So this is going to be the next build and it's our car. So watch out for this. Alright, this car just came from Jacksonville. It is an 06 S2000. It already has a Kraftwerk Supercharger on it. There, Kraftwerk Supercharger. Quick backstory on this car. It's had a couple of people tune it. It's had some issues. It's got a probably a fuel pressure issue. It's got an updated pump and a fuel pressure regulator upgrade from one of the companies that make the higher pressure. And it's got all kinds of problems. It runs 10 to 1. It already broke a belt once. And it's got a bunch of little issues. And then once we get that figured out, we're going to put our suspension kit on it, which we like, which you guys know is the Body Club. I get asked all the time, why the Body Club? What's so special about it? Why don't you like this guy? Why don't you like that guy? I like the Body Club because it doesn't give us any issues. It's manufactured in Japan. I've yet to have a warranty issue, but the warranty issues are addressed fast because their store in California does replace it. No questions asked. We've only had one go bad. That's where we got our info from. Also, they're ultimately adjustable. We can adjust them any which way we want. We can get them to ride fantastic and adjust exactly the way we want them. That's why we use the Body Club. So this car was brought to us. It's been built and it seems like not had the right parts used. A lot of people's worked on this car, and we're basically hopefully making it the last stop. Somebody's built the car. It had all kinds of wrong parts in it. I won't go into details, but what we are going to do is this guy here. This is a wastegate. I don't know what brand it is, but basically, for those that don't know, when you get to the desired boost, there is a valve in here. It looks kind of similar setup to like an exhaust valve. It opens and basically fire comes out of here. Not good. It's going to blow right over here and potentially burn the headlight, doing who knows what kind of damage. And there isn't a whole lot of room to do anything too creative, but basically what we need is a pipe coming off here and routing outside of the engine bay so we don't have any problems. Also, it's got stock injectors and a stock map sensor. We're going to put S300 on it with a fresh ECU, some 1000cc injectors, and then we have a good starting point to tune, and we can go from there and kind of see where the car is happy. But first thing is, we got to fix that. What is that thing, George?
You're looking at, we got a high performance boost controller. It's remote mounted so that you can tune it over here instead of down there.
So while the car's in the dyno and I'm trying to dial in, you can just be adjusting the boost all over the place.
I can just stand here and make some fine-tuned adjustments. As long as the lines don't blow off, because it seems like they might blow off.
Yeah. Well, you can hold that on there while you're turning that knob.
There you go.
You can do that.
I'll just
there you go.
Together.
All the boost.
There and turn.
Okay, still doing a little digging around. George is going through the pinouts here and finding out a couple of things are plugged in where they shouldn't. So, just give you a quick rundown. This wire with butt connectors and several joins within 2 inches, that was plugged into the idler intake air temp. Just pulled out the intake air temp and found out the end of it is melted, which tells us there is 12 volts going across it, which 12 volts going across it should be the idler control valve. So that is the idler control valve, and then the wire hanging out over here just kind of doing nothing, that is the air temp sensor. So that needs to be changed and plugged over here. Well, of course the air temp sensor needs to be replaced because that is melted. So there's 2 problems. Car doesn't have an idle air control valve, and it doesn't have an intake air temperature sensor, which that is pretty critical to speed density, which means it uses it to run correctly. So there's 2 issues we found before we even start trying to program this thing. And of course we've put a flange on here. We've got to build that pipe before we run it or do anything. So we're kind of working through the issues before we start the tuning process.
Got the dump tube for the green Civic all built. That'll get that gas right where it needs to be, under the car, not pointing at the headlight.
So that explains the leaky sound underneath. Just burping the throttle. I had a major exhaust leak, so my gasket's no good. To the rescue. brand new Honda OEM gasket. Okay, so what I thought would be just a couple of little fix-it and tunes turned out to be like all day, and you know, don't usually get this dirty tuning. I've washed my hands twice, so it's dark outside. Put the car on the dyno, first run, brakes up, runs like absolute garbage, super lean on the bottom, super rich on the top, car's got no timing, map looks like complete crap anyway, so that's a whole nother story. Start going through it. Let me show you a couple of things we found here before I show you the dyno. Camera don't want to focus, there's a big surprise. Anyway, it's some kind of ignition amplifier. You hook it to the coils, it taps into the harness, and it's supposed to increase the voltage to the coils. I've never had good luck with this stuff on Hondas. I don't build cars that make 1,000 horsepower on 4 cylinders. That's just not our work here. So someone's going to tell me, yeah, for the big horsepower stuff you need it. I've had the best luck with OEM stuff. No funny stuff. OEM coils, you know, bigger injectors, push more air through the motor. That's pretty much it. Again, that's when you know you've had a fun day tuning, when you've got all kinds of tools out. You know, you got a Gatorade thrown in there and a razor blade. Yeah, that's for cutting wires, by the way. And there's more tools over there. So, okay, once I fixed the booster spark, or booster, fixed it, I took it off, got rid of it. By the way, I got my haircut today. Look at that. Took that off, rewired that. It had iridium plugs in it. Tightened those up, did some run. It would still break up. Better, but not perfect. Put our good old BKR7s in there that I use all the time. Immediately better. Got the fuel straight, started to put some timing in, and well, anyway, first run the dyno, it did 240 horsepower, breaking up and running like complete dookie. Now it's almost 400. Another customer's going to ask me, why couldn't you get 400? I don't know. Your car won't make 400. It's got an aftermarket cat, and it's one of those really tiny cats. You see here, blue line is the first run. This bottom graph here is the air fuel. I see, punch it, it's lean. As soon as it starts to make any boost, this is VTEC changeover, by the way. It's making about 3.5 pounds of boost by here, so don't panic that we're running it at 16.0. As soon as it hits VTEC, rich, 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 no timing in it, pops, farts, backfires. That's the after, that's a red. Almost 400, did like 396 or 398 or something. It's making boost. Air fuel is nice and safe. I could maybe lean it out, but it ain't gonna make any power. Didn't want to put any more timing in. I didn't want to risk having it knock. So it's making quite a bit more power. Change the plugs. Even the fuel pump, he put a Walbro pump in it, which is the pump that we recommend. And as much as I love changing the pumps on the dyno, which I did, it was running a little lean up top. It is the pump that we use. I don't know why, don't know the history of it, but this was running out of fuel at about 375 horsepower-ish. You know, about 7,000 RPMs and up. It was just running out of fuel. I put fuel in it, wouldn't take fuel. Decided to pull the pump, put a new pump in it. Fuel came back. I managed to take a little bit of fuel out in the calibration, and as you see, our fuel is holding tight. Sits at 12 to 1 all the way up. No problem at all. That run I took it to 83. I did a couple of runs to 85 and it was right at 400, but I don't like splitting hairs. 396 to 400, you're not going to feel that. So this has been a long time on the dyno. So what am I saying? I don't know. I think I've been breathing too much fumes and listening to the exhaust after. I guess the moral of the story is, this has been to 2 different tuners before it came here, and I'm happy that I can make the car run. He's getting suspension, he's getting one of our radiators, but I didn't want to do that until we fixed the car. Who cares how low it is and how nice the radiator is if it makes 240 horsepower with a supercharger. Also, he's got some of the interior panels have to be put back together, some of the back panels where he's been working on it. Anyway, I'm going home. I'm going to wash my hands and call it a night and close up. So there'll be more video after this, I'm sure. Okay, so the little green car, the one that had a few things wired incorrectly, we went ahead and straightened those out and re-gapped the plugs, put Honda in, found out how to bad injectors, put injectors in it. And it's running on a eBay wastegate, which isn't working very well, but it's doing an okay job of holding boost. It's sitting at about 8.5 pounds, and it's, to be honest, a turbo we know nothing about, and nobody really knows much about this engine, so kind of tuning conservative more than I would usually. We're sitting right about 11.8, 12.0 line. It's making a little over 200 horsepower. Like I say, it's like 8.3 pounds of boost on an unknown turbo, but you know what? It runs. It didn't run at all before. I'm going to suggest a few things he changes. The intercooler pipes could use to be changed, but you know what? They're working. Rather than trying to sell him everything he doesn't need, we'll try and get the engine running first. And again, this is a cold air intake that's been modified, and again, it works. It could really use an intake on it. Getting the intake air away from that right behind the fan would help, but basically what he needed was to get the car running halfway decent before he starts spending money on it. So alright, so this is the S2000. What I was telling you about, well, you guys have seen it. So there's the body club suspension. I've already told you why I like body club suspension. So it looks like back is on. George is working on the front right now.
I forgot to start filming this one.
You did?
You can see I'm a little farther ahead than usual.
Look at that. Well, you know, I could always fast forward and make it look like it was really quick. Very cool. Do you know what this is? This is not the solar system according to LHD Performance. This is what's going on with this. He wants to know if the car should be this much higher or this much lower.
Anyways, the earth looks like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You know the reason is? Because when you sit stuff down, it doesn't roll.
Yep.
Alright, while the S2000 bleeds out right now, we're trying to get all the air out of the system. This car was brought in. We're doing a out the hood exit exhaust. This has a heat shield back here that has to be removed. We'll see what it looks like back there. We did the exhaust for this quite a while ago, but now he wants the pipe out the hood, which is going to be here. So this is next. We'll bring this in, let it cool down a little bit more, start taking it apart. So this car is here for a replacement diff. The diff is actually bad in this. You can actually see some of the squidget that's everywhere. It's been leaking too. And when you think of S2000's differentials, who do you think of? Huh? You think of this guy. This is Ben. You've heard of this guy, Putty Mod Racing.
It's me.
This is the guy that does differentials the right way the first time. He's been building discs for us for many years, including the one for the all-wheel drive K-Sight. This was Ben's creation right there. This is the new diff he's got. He's already pre-built it. We're taking the old one out. He's switching it out, which is really helpful for us. That way we don't have a car sitting on the lift waiting for a diff. So he's pre-built it, brought it down personally. He's taking the old one back with him. So this will be a perfect differential now. All right, this car is here for, let's see, he's getting an extra gauge. He's putting a water temp gauge in it and relocating an existing gauge and tuning. This Miata over here is getting a new exhaust downpipe. Already talked about that. It's getting a downpipe or up pipe coming out the hood. I'll show you what else we've got going on. Car's lining up. That car leaving just got the potty mud diff. I showed you the video on that. This car is the car we tuned and did the coilovers and the radiator. We're going to drive it some more and test it. This car just got dropped off. It's getting gator axles and brakes and sway bars. This car, let me show you this car a little bit. This car got dropped off. It's being worked on at 2 different shops, and we're going to look at this car like a blank slate, like I always say. It's been at a dealership. I'm not going to say which dealership, but that's the tag. They charged him, they settled on $2,600, but I think the bill was $3,900. They said, come and pick it up, we can't finish it. Okay, so all I did was start the car. Taking a quick glance. One thing I noticed, see the fuel return line right here? This is the clamp that should be up on there. This is the return hose on the fuel. This could pop off, spray fuel everywhere. Bad. Okay, just listening to the motor. Let me burp the throttle. See how much the engine shakes? It's Very, very lazy. Can't really tell how much, but the engine is shaking. The crazy thing about this car is it has 9,924 miles. There's the bill. I'm not going to show it. Didn't give me any reason to show who worked on it, but basically we told the guy, send it down to us, we'll be your last stop. We'll fix it, we'll make it right. You don't have to tow it anywhere after here. It's been towed from 2 different shops. The first shop, it came from Illinois. On his journey down here, the car started to run rough. The first shop put a bunch of parts in it. And again, I'm not going to go into details because that doesn't make anything more fun to the story. And I'm not going to make it sound worse than what it is and exaggerate. But they didn't fix it. Then it got sent to a Honda dealership. The Honda dealership, I already told you that story. And there it is. It runs terrible. You can hear it from, let me just do this again. Listen to the exhaust. Okay, what do you think that is, guys? You know what, you don't have to think what it is. We'll fix it, and we'll tell you what it is, and we'll make the customer happy. What do you think about that? Here we are on the dyno. Gonna look it over, do a run the way it is. This car I already tuned on 93 octane. We just put some 100 octane in here. Gonna turn it up like 2 or 3 pounds. Get a feel for it and see where it is, and make some power. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you're gonna miss shots like this. I'm actually gonna put my cell phone down here and record this at the same time, and go ahead and put it on Instagram just so you can follow me on there and see what's going on. See his dyno, and let me move that over, and let's go ahead and do a run. Just recap the plugs. How did it sound from back there? Sound good? Let's take a look. Alright, so final numbers, 467. You can see this graph here is boost. It's kind of nice as we can overlay boost to make sure we know what's going on. As you see, built-in boost, peak boost all the way through here. Not peak boost, but as you see, where are we? I see it hold steady, 20.7, 22, 22.4, 22.5. 22.2, 24. I said the boost does a real good job holding steady. It's one of our cast manifolds we used to make back in the day. We don't make them now. Everybody and his brother makes a manifold, and you can buy them off eBay for about $4 with free shipping. But there you go. That's what it looks like. Figured I would show you that with all 3 graphs out. Alright, so I just realized I actually did a YouTube video on this car. This car, I believe, was a different color. It had red in it, it had some different wheels, and it had tiny brakes. Alright, tuning is finished. This here represents the 3 different boost options I've put in here. Well, customer took our advice, did bigger brakes in the front, bigger brakes in the back. But we did this car, I remember I did it on 3 different boost settings. I did on wastegate pressure, boost A, and boost B, and it was all on pump gas. I think it did 380 or something around there. Anyway, this is the same car. All I did was make basically retune. We put race gas in here, or the customer brought it with race gas, and basically retuned it, just turned up the boost. Now it's 22 pounds. But I get this asked all the time, what kind of wires do I need, what kind of boost or spark or MSD. You don't need any of that. Stock ignition. All I did is tighten up the plug. I'm running a 7 in this. I really need to be running an 8, but it's kind of laid out. I don't know if you can tell. Another late night, and I can't get 8s. But 7s, I usually typically run 7s all the way up to 400, 410, and they're quite happy at 460. 8s would be better, but tightened up the gap and running conservative, as you probably are starting to get to know me by now. Hopefully my personality comes over on my YouTube channel. But so here's another one done. It's another late night. I'm going home. This is the second late night I've been here tuning cars, and it's time to go home.